If you don't know your numbers, you don't have a real business. When I was in a mastermind probably 7-8 years ago, I heard a guy say that, and it hit me like right here. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about, man? Like, I've got a business. I'm making money. But you know what? I kind of wasn't. I thought I was, but I wasn't. I didn't know my numbers. And fast forward 3 or 4 or 5 years, I discovered, oh, man, I really don't know my numbers. And I was hit with a huge $520,000 federal tax lien. Not a bill, but a lien, a judgment that was tied to my houses, was tied to all of my personal assets. And the IRS was coming after me. But it didn't just happen overnight. It happened because I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't paying my taxes. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. But I could have avoided all of that if I would have listened to a guy like David Richter. David has a company that helps real estate investors like us get control of our money and implement the profit first strategy. So it's like having your own certified or chief financial officer. That's what CFO stands for. And David, can somebody use your services who maybe only does 1 or 2 deals a month, maybe only does 100,000 a year, if they're just getting started? Or is this only for the big boys, for the people that are doing like lots of deals?
So that question is a great question, because I started this thing because I wanted the people that were just doing like 1 or 2 deals a month or 100,000 a year or just broken through to be able to have access to someone like this, because all of their interactions in the past have been bookkeepers, CPAs who have talked down to them, or they don't know what the heck is going on. And it's like, here's someone who's a financial leader that will help you actually and guide you to profitability and putting more in your pocket. So I wanted to make it accessible for if you're just doing even a few deals a year. That's where now it's called fractional CFO. You get access to this person who's going to be a financial leader on the team, that you don't have to pay $200,000, $300,000 a year for, but you get that access to them that will actually put more money in your pocket. Because, and I love what you said. You said, you felt ashamed and all this stuff. We see that all the time, not just from the Joe McCalls of the world, but people doing 1 to 2 deals a month think that they should know all this stuff, but no one has taught them. And you know what? We all talk about marketing, sales, like we need to get the money in the door, but everyone doesn't talk about the finances, but that's usually what's keeping people up at night. And it's like, we just want to make sure that you don't have to stay up at night. Like, you can take care of these tax situations and stuff like that. So short answer is yes.
All right. So let's talk about what profit first is. Will you break it down? What does it mean? And just keep it simple for us.
Okay. At the simplest level, the actual implementation is the envelope system. So if you've heard of that, I don't care if it's from Dave Ramsey or other personal finance gurus or just from your grandma doing it at home. It's like you're literally giving every dollar a name that comes into your business, but not using envelopes, you're using bank accounts. Because Joe already gave the mindset. It's sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale and I pay myself first, whether that's the taxes or myself or the profitability of the company, and then the expenses are still there to grow it. But then it has a system behind it. That's what drove me to Profit First too, because Rich Dad Poor Dad says pay yourself first. A lot of those books say that. Profit First said, here's how you do it. So it's like you literally set up bank accounts, and then from every deal that closes, you take a portion of that the proceeds from that sale and put it into like a profit account first, or to your pay account or the tax account, like setting up accounts that serve you as the owner. And it's getting that in place first and giving every dollar a name and making sure you're making profit a habit from every deal that closes, so you can be more profitable today and build that safety net from that next deal, so you don't have to be in the constant real estate rat race living deal to deal. That's what it is at its simplest level. It is the envelope system and giving every dollar a name and just making sure that you're doing it consistently.
You get into the details. I think it's fine for you to get into the details. Like, money comes in, you have a target percent that you put into each of these things. What are those different buckets, right? Yeah. So walk through that, would you please?
So when we work with people, like if you read the book, it's going to give you the general concepts and going to give you a leg up. Like you can become profitable right away just from getting the book and reading it. But then if you work with us, like we customize this to like, what are your specific goals? Because then we're going to set up the bank accounts. Like the first 3 I would always open up, I call the golden trio. And it's like profit, owner's compensation, and owner's tax.
Profit is number 1.
owner's comp,
Owner's comp, that's your salary, right?
that's like your salary. Profit is like icing on the cake that you take out quarterly. Owner's comp is like the weekly, bi-weekly, monthly salary you pay yourself. Then you've got owner's tax to make sure that come tax time, you can pay taxes.
All right.
So,
what do you do with what's left?
so there's OPEX. So then you transfer it to OPEX, and then boom, you can grow the business. You've still got marketing and
OPEX stands for what?
operational expenses. So just growing the business.
So it sounds to me like when you do it this way, your business will always be profitable.
Correct.
Always.
Always.
It cannot not be profitable. Can't.
Exactly. Exactly.
Dollar comes in. Let's talk about some of the percentages. What's the ideal target percentage when a dollar comes in? What percent goes to profit?
So if you get the book, there's an actual nice little chart, because depending on the size of your business is like the targets that you should be going after. But if you're just getting started, at the very beginning, it says 5% to profit, 50% to owner's comp, 15% to tax, and 30% to OPEX. Because when you first start out, and especially if you quit your job, you need to be supported, and there's not many team members when it's just you out there hustling, getting the wholesale lease option, like you're out there just grinding. So that's why it's weighed more towards the entrepreneur getting more, because you've got to put food on the table. But then as you grow the business, some of those percentages change, so that way you can start supporting team members, taking work off your plate, but you're making more money, so you're just getting a little smaller percentage of the bigger pie. So that if you get that book, there's a nice pretty chart depending on if you're selling the properties or holding the properties. I give different percentages based on where you are.
So if you're at a place now where somebody's just getting started and they're already doing, $500,000 a year, they're thinking there's no way I can set aside 5% for profit. So you can start small, right?
Right. And that's a huge difference between targets and where you currently are. In the book, it's the targets. But there's another thing called current percentages or current allocation percentages or caps that's explained in the book of where am I currently? Because a lot of people ask, this can't make me profitable right away. I'm not profitable right now. Like I'm eating my shirt. And they say, how can this help me? Well, it forces you to say, can I live off of at least 97%, like to feed the business? And can I do 1% to OPEX, owner's comp, and owner's tax? Like making sure you start somewhere, even if it's as small as 1% to some of these buckets, because the whole goal is the habit of building that margin and space into your business and becoming profitable from all those deals. So yes, start where you are.
All right. So somebody's also thinking, well, wait a minute, 15% into tax bucket. I pay a lot more than 15% in taxes. Talk about that.
So there's where it gets into the real revenue of the business. This is more of like what we're actually making. So if you wholesale a deal, well, let's just make it real simple. $20,000, you get the wholesale, but then you have your operational expenses, right? And let's just say it's 30% you do towards that, and $6,000 goes back into the business, and so now $14,000 is really what you're taxed off of if that's your net profit. So it's more like 15% of $20,000, of the real revenue of like what you made off that property is going to cover like the 25 to 30% of your net profit. So that's how it's different. It's more like the 15% off the gross profit versus taking it after everything, because we want you to put it first. So it's like we have to put it off the bigger number, and that's why you don't have to save as much on the tax side, because it's off the bigger pie versus when it gets divvied up into smaller chunks.
I get it. All right. So somebody's also looking at this thinking, wait a second. If I did this today, I couldn't do it, because my operating expenses, my OPEX is already 90% of my revenue or whatever it is, right? Like, what should I do? Just fold up shop and quit?
So that's where it's like, we've seen people over 100% of what they're bringing in when we've done this.
Oh my gosh, that happens so many times. They're borrowing money from their retirement account. They're borrowing money from friends and family just to keep it afloat. They're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into debt.
Exactly. So the first thing we have to say is, what are you really spending, and what can we cut first so we can get it at least under 100%? But then we just say this first quarter, it might be 97% to OPEX and 1% to the other three accounts, like to your actual golden trio of accounts. Then next quarter, can we do a little bit better? Can you go from 97 to 92 and put some more towards the other percentages? This is a process. You probably did not wake up one day and say, I'm going to spend more than I make. It was a process. So it's like now we have to it's Yoda. I'm a Star Wars nerd. So it's like you have to unlearn what you've learned. So you have to say, okay, now it's from 97 to 92% OPEX. Now I can put more towards the actual fun accounts. Then the next quarter, can I go from 92 to 87? It's just like trying to get better and leaner, but then more profitable as well too. But you can't. I've seen people try to go from like 100% OPEX down to 50% OPEX, and it's like it blows up the business internally. It's like they start letting people go that were the hires that they shouldn't have let go, or they start breaking their systems and process. It's a process to take it down to where it needs to be, but you get better each time and you get to keep more and more.
You know, I used to be a checkbook entrepreneur.
Nice.
Talk about, this is my checkbook right here. What is a checkbook entrepreneur?
Are you living to check, and like just making sure that the checks don't bounce?
Well, yes, but I'm also talking about where, from the perspective, I look at my bank account and I'm like, oh, I got $20,000 in there to spend. Right?
Right.
And,
yes.
And so I'm just thinking about what's in my bank. That's what I can spend money on without having any kind of clear direction on where that money needs to go.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem, isn't it? With so many people, is they're just looking at their checking account balance and they're thinking, oh, okay, great, I've got some money in there. They're not planning for anything else, right?
Exactly. That's where someone said this on the podcast, and I'm like, I'm stealing that and using it forever. You have the one account set up, and it's the black hole account. Money goes in, money goes out. You never see it again, and there's no intentionality with the dollars. If I have $20,000 today, I'll spend as close to that. If I don't have it tomorrow, I'm going to put the brakes on and like maybe miss on something I should have invested in. And it's like that's how we live. And that's where here, it's like giving yourself a fighting chance to actually know where the dollars are going. And honestly, even if you are a checkbook or you look at your bank accounts on a daily basis, it's leverage. That's why I like Profit First. It leverages that. It leverages what you already do and what you will continue to do. Because let's be honest, even if you learn QuickBooks and you learn to be a savvy entrepreneur, you'll still open up your bank account more than a QuickBooks file. And it's like, that's where it's taking the power of what you're already doing and that psychology and saying, how do we utilize that to the best of our ability?
Why the profit account, right? Like, for me, it took me a while to figure this out because I'm like, well, my profit is my salary. Like, I'm paying myself the profit.
Right.
Why is it important to set aside 1, 2, 5, 10% into a profit account?
I always ask entrepreneurs this: why did you start your business? Why did you start it? That's where a lot of people sometimes just say, oh, for the money or this or that. But it's like, what does that money represent to you? Time freedom, relationship, like being able to spend the time with who you want to, go where you want to, do those types of things, whatever freedom looks like for you. And that's where, yes, owner's comp is there to provide the lifestyle, but the profit account is there to fuel your why. Why did you start the company? It's for 2 reasons, that profit account. Number 1, I want to fuel my passion and that purpose behind why I started it. And number 2, I want to give myself a shot in the arm for actually being a profitable business and saying, I have been disciplined enough to put money aside into a profit account, and I want to feel that reward so I don't always feel broke. So I don't always say, I made all this money, where the heck did it go?
It also sometimes, like, we don't really look at our numbers until money's tight, right? And we're like, oh, where'd the money go? Where am I spending? And then we look at it. But what if we could be more proactive and look at, okay, do I really need this $30 a month subscription? Do I really need this? I had things that's embarrassing. I was paying $2,000-$3,000 a month on subscription services and things that I wasn't even using for like almost a year. And the bigger your business gets, the more money you make, you just kind of like, oh, I can't cancel that. I'll use it later. Or you forget about it. So talk about that, would you please?
So many people don't know the simple numbers in the business. And that's where a lot of people just then give up or don't want to talk about it. It's the make, spend, keep. And are you making enough, spending it in the right place, and keeping what you want? And spend and keep are so tied together, it's not even funny. Because when you make money, we always think, well, I just made $10,000 more. That did not mean that $10,000 went into your pocket, though. But when you have the spend, that dialed in, whenever you cut something, that goes right into your pocket. That's like 100% pay raise right there, like of making sure that if you cut it, it can go to your bottom line. But that's not the truth with revenue, because usually revenue is filtered out by all those expenses. So that's where it's like, it's very important to do that, number one. Number two, to have a system. That's where we tell people, like, can you just do PRNU? If you just spit out, print out your last quarter of expenses and mark it. Was it profitable, replaceable, or unnecessary? That's like a 2-hour project that could save you thousands of dollars a month.
One of the things that relates to this that has helped me is the accountability.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's in a different spot, but when you have a fractional CFO or maybe an operations manager or somebody else who's like, Joe, do you really need to spend $5,000 on that thing? Are you really going to use it? Is that something that, what about this and this that's coming due soon, right?
And that's where a CFO should always be forward-facing too, meaning you told me, Joe, or you told me, whoever's working with that CFO, these are your goals. The way you're spending right now are not going to get you to where you want to be. And it's like you have to make that connection too, where a lot of entrepreneurs can't see that because it's all about, okay, I got a network, I got to bring the deals in, where it's like someone else taking that step back and saying, with the trajectory you're on, you told me you wanted this freedom or more time with your family, or you wanted to take these trips, and the way that the business is going is and the decisions you're making are not aligning with what you said the goals are. So are the goals off, or do we need to adjust here and help you course correct for what you actually want out of life? So it's like those types of conversations. And it's on the flip side too. Some people are scared of paying themselves what they're worth. So it's like, that you can take that salary increase. And some people are scared to ask that, or it's just scared of like, am I going to tank the business? And it's having that extra view and that set of being like, no, you can take this much. We had a guy come in, had like 6 figures in a savings account, was like freaking out because he didn't know, like, can I buy this watch for myself? It's like a $4,000 watch. And like, it was just making decisions, but just from scarcity and fear, because he didn't know, is this going to tank the business if I do this? Yeah. I'm scared of spending on myself. So it goes both ways.
Talk a little bit about OPEX reserves, operating expenses reserves. How important is that? What do you recommend to people have, in reserves for their operation expenses?
That's where we say, how much peace of mind do you want? Do you want 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Like, we recommend 6 months. Like, I want you to have more than what the average is. Average is, when people say that, is like 1 quarter. But I want you to have 5 or 6 months of there at least. So that way, if 2 bad quarters or the market tanks, you have enough time that no matter what, you're going to be okay. Like, the business can survive, you can survive. And people, especially in the investing world, like, oh, that's a lot of money to sit on. I could be using that for this, that, the other thing. And also, not as only peace of mind, but it helps you grow too. Like, banks want to see cash sitting, and that you don't need their finances and financing in order to, get a loan, or private lenders, or whatever it is. You just look better on paper, but also you get the psychological effect of peace of mind too. And like you were saying, people make bad decisions when they're under that financial pressure. It's because they're making decisions out of fear and not from their purpose, because they're just in survival mode. They just feel like, I just need to survive. And that's where OPEX reserves can come into play to take on several different roles. Peace of mind, and do you want to grow, but not just have to use your own money all the time? Well, then if we have some reserves, where you look a lot better on paper now, and we can grow your company without having to be freaking out that the bank account's always getting to close to zero.
Mel, so good, man. This is like, I hope you guys are feeling a little uncomfortable right now, right? Because so many of you are already, what I'm talking about. And you're like, okay, Joe's reading my mail because this is where I'm at. And listen, how many of you right now, I don't want you to raise your hand or comment, but like, how many of you right now are getting those debt collection letters in the mail? The thick letters from the IRS. I tell you something, when you get a thick envelope from the IRS, that is not a good thing. It's just not. It's not a good thing. And when you're getting a couple of them every month, what about all of the postcards and letters from the debt collection consolidation attorneys and the companies that will help you claim that you could settle your tax debt? When you start getting a lot of those things in the mail, it's not too late. I want to tell you, it's not too late, because you can get out of that. And this, again, the key is not just make more money, right, David? Like a lot of entrepreneurs and people we're good at making money, and that's not going to solve our problems, is it? It's not just making more money.
No, that's where most people think that's the answer, but that's the root problem, is that we think that the more money we make, the more we're going to keep, but we don't have the keep skill yet. And it's like, it's an upward, downward spiral. Because like it's like Keith Cunningham in his books. He says the more you grow cancer, the tumor grows. It's like you scale that cancer up, it's just a bigger tumor. And it's like the same thing with a jet that's going down. If you put fuel in a jet that's going down, you're just going to hit the ground faster and harder. It's like, don't want to do that. We want to take you from being able to say, okay, more money does equal more into our pocket because we've got a system for it.
Nice. And it's because everyone's trying to grow, scale at all costs, right?
At all costs.
And the people don't realize the bigger your business gets, the smaller your margins get.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So there's a cost to that. Not saying it's wrong to want to go big and scale, but you've got to be aware of sometimes when you make your business more complicated, your profitability gets harder. I know so many guys who, were happy when they first made their first deal, and we're happy to just make 10 grand a month, 5 grand a month. And then, I want to do more, right? And then all of a sudden they're at 100 a year, maybe, and then they're 500,000 a year, or they want to grow to 10 million a year. And they're working so hard to do that. But when you if you really knew your numbers, you'd realize, holy cow, I'm working 70 hours a week to make 15% margins. And I'm not making any more money personally, net profit at the end of the day, than I was making when I was doing just $1 million a year and working only 40 hours a week with a lot less stress and hassle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I don't want people to stay stuck there.
All right. Thanks again, David. Appreciate you being on my show, man.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. See you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. If you like my channel at all, please hit the subscribe button. Get the notification bell thing clicked so you can get notified when new videos come out. Really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, all right? Thank you.